All praises to the Most High. It's been an honor and a pleasure to bring out the Word of God to the masses. And tonight we're going to start the Lord's Passover at sundown. So I'm going to bring a lesson about the Lord's Passover. And I'm going to start with Leviticus 23, verse 4 through 8. And it reads, "These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month at evening is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread." So we have to do a holy convocation starting this evening, and then we have to do a holy convocation on the 7th day. If you choose to go the whole 7, it's just a double honor to the Most High. And you have to have unleavened bread the whole time. Verse 7, "In the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein." So the Lord said we cannot work on the day. It's just like a Sabbath. Verse 8, "But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. And the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein." So the Lord is making it clear. You have to have a holy convocation. You must do it the first day of the Passover, and it has to be the 7th day, the last day. And from there, I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse 14. Exodus 12. Starting at verse 14, and that reads, and 14 to 20, and it reads, "And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever." So the Most High is saying we have to do this ordinance forever. I know a lot of churches, they say all God's laws are done away with, but he's saying we must do this forever. As long as we're generating, we have to keep doing this. Verse 15, 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses." That's why we had to do the cleaning and get all the leaven out, all the bread, anything with yeast. We had to get it out of our house. And we have to make sure it's really clean, because this is representing the Lord. On the Passover is representing how he brought us out of the land of Egypt, and how he actually gave up his body for us. He was that living sacrifice. Verse 15, Shalakia, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. So it's the serious of the Most High. He says anybody that eats the leavened bread, they're going to be cut off. They're going to die, he said. Verse 16, "And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you." Verse 17, "And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever." So he wants us to do the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread for a perpetual covenant. He wants us to do it forever. Verse 18, "In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at even ye shall eat unleavened bread until 21st day of the month at even." Verse 19, "7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land." So the Lord is taking this very serious. People that are eating yeast and eating bread, anything with yeast in it during the Passover. Verse 20, "You shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations. You shall eat unleavened bread. So for this Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, there's no yeast. You have to do it according to the way the Lord said to do it. And this is throughout your generations. And from there, I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 12. Let's see. Verse 10 through 12. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. So you can't have any leftovers. You can't put no leftovers in the fridge. You have to eat it all that same night. And if anything is left, you have to burn it with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. Verse 12, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. So back then, in the time of Moses, he went through and killed all the firstborn of Egypt. So in this dispensation of time that we're in now, because we're in spiritually Sodom and Egypt, which you can read in Revelations chapter 11, verse 8, says this is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, where our Lord was crucified. So he's going to do the same things that he did back in the time of Moses here in this spiritual Egypt. He's going to smite all these Egyptians, all these people round about us who hate us. And from there, I'm going to go Exodus 12, verse 23 through 27. And that reads, for the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintel, when he seeth the blood upon the lintel, and on the two side posts, the Lord will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. So having that blood around the door is representing the blood of Yahushua. That's the blood of Christ. So that's what would preserve our people in those times of Moses, and that's what's going to preserve us today. The blood of Yahushua, by keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. Verse 24, and you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. So the Lord said to do this forever. And it shall come to pass, verse 25, when you become to the land which the Lord will give you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. So the Lord wants us to keep doing this for a perpetual covenant. Verse 26, and it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye by this service? If they start asking, why do we have to do this? Verse 27, that you shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and worshiped. So this is what you would have to tell your children. This is the Lord's Passover, how he delivered us out of the land of Egypt. And he's actually that sacrificial lamb that died for us as well. And from there, I'm going to go to Exodus 23, and I'm going to go to verse 15. Exodus 23, verse 15. And that reads, thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month of Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. So we are in the month of Abib, which is April. This is the month of Abib. So he wants us to remember this and do the unleavened bread as well as a perpetual covenant. Because not January is the first month. April is actually the first month, the month of Abib. And from there, I'm going to go back to Exodus 12, and I'm going to read verse 8. Exodus 12 and verse 8. And that reads, and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. So we have to eat the lamb roasted with fire, and we have to have the bitter herbs, and we have to have unleavened bread. This is what the Lord said we have to do. Now I'm going to go Exodus 12, verse 8. Oh, Shalakia, not that one. Exodus 12, 15 through 20. And that reads, 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. So the Lord takes it very serious if we're eating yeast or leavened bread during the Passover. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation. And in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. Verse 17, and you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. So this is a perpetual thing he wants us to do. Verse 18, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. Verse 19, 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Verse 20, you shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations. Shall you eat unleavened bread. So this is what the Lord is saying. And from there I'm going to go to Exodus 13. And I'm going to read verse 1 through 4. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast. It is mine. So the Lord said, all of our firstborn out of the womb, firstborn of any child that you have, is dedicated to the Most High. And Moses said unto the people, remember this day in which you came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand the Lord brought you out from this place. There shall no leaven be eaten. This day came you out in the month of Abib. So this is the month of Abib that we came out. And from there, I'm going to go to Numbers. Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 14. Just bear with me a minute. This is my big study Bible. Numbers 14 and verse 14. And that reads, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land, for they have heard that the Lord are among this people, that thou, Lord, art seen face to face, and that thy cloud standeth over them, and thou goest before them by daytime in a pillar of cloud, and in a pillar of fire by night. So we were all under the cloud, and that was that rock Yahushai that was leading and guiding us out of the land of Egypt. And from there, I'm going to go to Hebrews, the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. Hebrews 12, verse 1 and 2. And that reads, wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto a Mashiach, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. He sat down at the right hand of the throne of Yahweh because of being obedient all the way to death on the cross. So we're under a cloud of witnesses. We're still under the cloud, which is Yahushai and Yahweh himself. And from there, I'm going to go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians 10. 1 Corinthians 10. And I'm going to read verse 1 through 15. It says, moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea. We were all under that cloud, which is, we're still under a cloud of witnesses. And we're all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, We were given the law, statutes, and commandments through Moses. The Lord gave them to Moses on Mount Sinai and Horeb. And did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. So that's who delivered us out of the land of Egypt. And this is the cloud that we're under right now. We're under a cloud of witnesses. That's why Paul was saying in Hebrews, we have to rid ourselves of every weight and sin that so easily ensnares us, and run this race with endurance, looking unto a Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, which is the author and finisher of our faith. Verse 5, but with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. So there was a lot of our people that was rebellious back then, like Korah and Dathan, and a lot of other people. Just like in today's time, we got a lot of people rebelling against the truth. And so, Paul said in 2 Corinthians, there's nothing you can do against the truth, but for the truth. And verse 6 says, now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. Neither be ye idolaters, as were some of them. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. So now he's saying how they started to just get into a lot of wickedness. They sat down to eat, they were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, they were fornicating, they were doing all these things. They rose up to play. And then the Lord destroyed them. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 23,000. So the Lord is showing you, this is an example. He's leaving a warning here of how he'll deal with the people that rise up against him with wickedness and be disobedient. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents. And in the wilderness, so every time when they were bit by that serpent, Moses had to put a serpent on a pole in the desert, like it says in Numbers 21. And anybody that looked upon it, they would live. But the ones that didn't, they died, because that serpent on the pole that they have on every paramedic truck in every city, every state, every country, that's representing Yahweh Shai. That's what that's representing, Yahweh Shai on the cross. Verse 10. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed of the destroyer. Now all these things happened unto them for examples. This is why he left it written in the scrolls, which was the scrolls were converted to the Bible. All these things happened unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. So this is a warning to us not to do the things those people did in the wilderness. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. So he's saying, if you think you got it all right, you better think again. You better keep running this race and keep praying, fasting, continue to seek his face, keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Keep doing all the things. He says, don't never think that you got it. Don't never think you've got all the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, because we're ever learning. And we want to come to the knowledge of the truth. Verse 13, there hath no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. So every time you're going through the trials and the tribulations, you can always lean on Yahweh Shai, which is that rock. He is the righteous one. You can lean on the rock that is greater than us. The rock that's greater than all of us. We can lean on him. He's the righteous one, the advocate, the mediator that we can go to. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. Verse 15, I speak as to wise men, judge ye what I say. So Paul is saying you need to be wise about this. And you need to listen to what he's saying. Take heed to these words. Verse 16, the cup of blessing which we bless, it is not the communion of the blood of Christ. The bread which we break is not the communion of the body of Christ. Verse 17, for we being many are one bread and one body, for we are all partakers of that one bread, which is Christ. one body with many parts. Behold, verse 18, behold, Israel after the flesh are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar. Verse 19, what say I then, that the idols is anything, or that which is offered to and sacrifice to idols is anything? Verse 20, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. So now he's saying how light has no fellowship with darkness. You have to shake your tree. You have to get rid of the bad fruits. If there's somebody in your path or you're hanging around that's not in this walk, not wanting to keep doing the law, statutes, and commandments, you need to remove yourself. You know, because we can't sit at the seat of the scornful and the seat of the Lord's table, because remember the Most High, he put the law, statutes, and commandments on 2 tables of stone through Moses on Mount Sinai and Horeb. So that's talking about the laws, statutes, and commandments that we have to continue doing. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Job, chapter 16. Book of Job. Job chapter 16, verse 19 to 21. And that reads, also now behold, my witness is in heaven, and my record is on high. So our witness is in heaven, and our record is on high. But guess what? Everybody's record is up there. He's recording us every day. He's recording us as I speak. We're all getting recorded. Verse 20, my friends scorn me, but mine eyes pour out tears unto Yahweh. They scorn us. We get afflicted. But we're actually doing this to try to reach them. But they look at us like there's something wrong with us. Like we're crazy. And they want to afflict us. 21, oh, that one might plead for a man with Yahweh as a man pleaded for his neighbor. So this is what the Levitical priest Job was doing. He was keeping the laws, statutes, and the commandments. This is what he did. And from there I'm going to go to Matthew. I'm going to go to the book of Matthew. And I'm going to go to chapter 26. And I'm going to read verse 26 through 29. And that reads, and as they were eating, Mashiach took bread and blessed it, and brake it, and gave it to the disciples, and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup, and gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it. So Yahushua was telling us to do this in remembrance of him. Verse 28. For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. So this is always about Yahushua dying for us. That's why we have to die daily to our flesh. We have to say no to all these things that are contrary to the scriptures, contrary to the laws, statutes, and commandments. Verse 29. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. Talking about because he said in John 14, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself. And there where I am, there you will be also. This is what Yahushua is saying also in there. And from there, I'm going to go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. And I'm going to read verse 6. Verse 6 through 13. And it reads, your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? A little sin ruins the whole body. That's what Paul says. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump. Get rid of all that sin and wickedness that so easily ensnares you, so you can walk in the newness of Christ. Walk in the newness of life. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened, for even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. Verse 8. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice, with hatred. If you got anything towards your brother or sister, you got to get over it. Make amends. Not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. And so he said, it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments that he set before us, what he's paraphrasing Deuteronomy. Verse 9, I wrote unto you in an epistle not to company with fornicators. So now he's saying to come out from amongst them. Yet not altogether with fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters, for then must you needs go out of the world. Verse 11, but now I have written unto you not to keep company, if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such an one not to eat. He said, don't break bread with them. If they're doing all these things, you shouldn't even break bread with these people. Verse 12, for what have I to do to judge them also that are without? Do you not judge them that are within? Talking about the ones that are keeping the laws, the ones that are not keeping the laws. Verse 13, but them that are without, God judgeth. Therefore put away from among yourselves that wicked person. He's actually saying just don't hang out with them. They being wicked, doing all those things that's contrary to the scriptures. He's saying don't even hang out with them. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Mark, chapter 14, and I'm going to read verse 12 through 16. 14, verse 12 through 16. And it reads, and the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, the disciples said unto him, where wilt thou that we go and prepare that thou mayest eat the Passover? So the Lord was doing the Passover himself. And he sent it for two of his disciples, and said unto them, go ye into the city, and there shall you meet a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. Verse 14. And wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good man of the house, the master saith, where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. So this was Christ doing the Passover during his ministry in Rome and in Jerusalem. He was doing the Passover. Verse 16, and his disciples went forth and came into the city, and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. So Yahushua was keeping the Passover. He was keeping the Passover. And from there I'm going to go to the book of Luke. Book of Luke, chapter 22. Luke 22, verse 15 to 20. Luke 22, 15 to 20, and it reads, and he said unto them, what desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer? For I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of Yahweh. And verse 17, and he took the cup and gave thanks and said, take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say, verse 18, for I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine. I will not drink of, the pages are getting stuck. The fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come. Verse 19, and he took bread and gave thanks and brake it, and gave unto them, saying, this is my body which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me. So Yahushua said, do this in remembrance of him. So he didn't. He also said in Matthew chapter 5, he didn't do away with the laws or the prophets, but he said it himself to do these things in remembrance of him. Verse 20. Likewise also the cup after supper, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you. So this is pretty clear that we have to keep the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And from there, I'm going to go back to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 24 to 34. And it reads, and when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. Saying the same thing right here to Apostle Paul. After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. So he's saying to do it as often, every feast day. Every time we have the feast, we need to do it. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Lord's death till he come. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the blood and shall be guilty of the body and the blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. So if you got any weight and sins that you're dealing with, you might want to think this through before you eat the Passover. This is what Christ is saying, because if you're doing it unworthily, you're going to be held accountable. This is what he's saying. Verse 29, for he that eateth and drinketh unworthily, eateth and drinketh damnation to himself. This is what Yahushua is saying. Not discerning the Lord's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. A lot of them are asleep and sickly. This is why Christ said, the well, they have no need of a physician, but the sick do. People that are, when he was talking about sick, he was talking about how they were in sin. Verse 31, for if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. But when we are judged, we are chastened of the Lord, that we should not be condemned with the world. Wherefore, my brethren, when you come together to eat, tarry one for another. Verse 34, and if any man hunger, let him eat at home, that you come not together unto condemnation. He's saying you better off staying home than coming together and do the Passover, because if you're in sin, you better think it through, and maybe you shouldn't do it. And the rest will I set in order when I come. So he said he's going to deal with the people when he gets here. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Psalms, chapter 119. Psalms 119. And I'm going to start at verse 1 through 7. Psalms 119, verse 1 through 7.